We're just okay, and we played some
Movies.
games. We're just okay.
Movie watchers.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Okay Movies. I'm your host, Biggie Size, and I'm here with...
Gweedo.
And Millpool, hello.
Well, how you guys doing?
Pretty good.
You get so excited to talk about movies.
You get Wally and Nasty one week, and then Gweedo and Millpool the next week.
I know. I feel like a parent. I'm not like sharing my kids. I just get them in various weeks. You know, hey, it's great. I'll take what I can get.
I think it's obvious which episode's gonna perform better.
And let's talk about it because it's actually really interesting. Our metrics show that people really enjoy the movies we do that are normally shitty but are easily accessible. Like, for instance, the Batman and Robin review, out of the more recent ones, has done the best. And then the next one, people really like when we talk about, I think, about things that make us mad, because the movies we walked out on is our most popular episode.
Oh,
wow.
Fans are assholes. They like when we watch bad movies and when we're angry.
You're absolutely right. That is the demographic we're talking to.
Which
Well,
we
we
should
should-
suffer.
We should spice it up this week and throw in like a special genre of like best movie boobs or something.
Ooh.
You know, just to hit that sex appeal.
That's good.
Speaking of movie boobs, I watched a film over the weekend. A little movie I like to call Baywatch.
Oh, dugga-dugga-dung.
That's right.
Dugga-dugga-dung, dugga-dugga-dung. You know that?
The theme song.
Start of the song.
Yeah, keep going.
I know all the lyrics to the Baywatch theme song.
Are there lyrics?
Some
never watched
people
Baywatch.
stand in the darkness, afraid to step into the light. Some people need to help somebody. I guess I don't know that part. Don't you worry, everything will be alright. 'Cause I got you, and you won't let you out of my sight. You know that song?
Absolutely.
Who sings that? It sounds like Michael McDonald or something.
I think
it's not
that was just
Hasselhoff,
me
is it?
emulating Michael McDonald, but it's definitely not Michael McDonald that sings that theme song.
You had it in spirit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was coming through you. Michael McDonald.
I feel like Baywatch was always one of those shows you just kind of randomly always flipped on, like Star Trek or something. You're like, oh, that's on. I guess I'll watch it.
Yeah, I think I learned how to masturbate to that show. No lie. I'm not joking. That's not a joke.
Oh, no, I totally agree. Pamela Anderson was fantastic.
That was right about the time, too, when I started playing with my Peter.
Sure. The movie was,
Anyways.
it's exactly what you would expect it to be. No surprises, except for The Rock definitely carried the whole thing. Everyone else was, especially Zac Efron in parts, was god-awful. And I kind of feel like it's one of those movies that they all knew it was terrible, so none of them really tried very hard, but that kind of worked to the film's favor. Because there's a lot of parts that it felt like, it should be a comedy, but took itself a little too serious at times. Like the tone just got a little too rough for the subject matter. And that's what made it kind of interesting. But other than that, the movie's a piece of crap, and I can't recommend it unless you just like piece of crap movies that are slightly interesting.
Yeah, I seen it too. It wasn't funny.
Right, that's the biggest problem.
And it was a movie that was going strictly for comedy. And Baywatch was one of those weird 90s shows where it wasn't a comedy. Definitely wasn't a comedy.
Right.
It was like, it was just a lifeguard kind of drama, but they solved mysteries sometimes.
Right. It felt like a medical drama in style, like what you would imagine a medical drama would do at that time period, but they were lifeguards.
Yeah.
Huh.
And
I have I have no concept of what Baywatch was or is. I'm just realizing this. Like, I don't think I ever watched it.
It's a
Mm.
time
I just-
capsule.
Yeah,
I would say.
I just kind of assume it would be like Saved by the Bell level kind of drama, except on a beach. Like,
Well, Saved by the Bell was a comedy, first and foremost. I think it was like a teenage comedy.
yeah,
Baywatch
there
was like there were no gags.
Right.
okay.
It was, someone would be drowning. Someone would go shave them first, which I thought was weird watching it because I was like, why don't they save their lives? But no, they pulled out a straight razor and shaved their chest.
Yeah.
And
But
then
you were
they'd
jerking
save
off,
them.
so
Yeah, I was jerking off, so I
Didn't
had
really
bigger
matter.
things to worry about, like my dick.
There we go.
But yeah, it was just kind of like one of those shows that I'm trying to liken it to something from the time period that Millpool might be able to grasp.
Sure.
is it like Home Improvement at all?
No,
I guess that
not
was a
like
comedy
that's
as
another
well.
comedy. Yeah.
Yeah,
didn't
it
watch
was
any-
definitely not sitcom styled. It was, I mean, I could just think of like a drama TV show, but they're just lifeguards. That that
Yeah,
kind of style.
okay. Like Star Trek.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Well,
you could say
no,
that.
that's sci-fi.
In that
You
style,
don't know
though.
genres well, do you, Millpool?
I mean, they're all pretty much the same when you boil it
Yeah,
down.
like American Horror Story, just like that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There you go. There you go.
But what about that? What's her name? There's one
Christine
girl in that
Berkeley?
show that I really like.
Brinkley.
Not in the show, in the movie. No, not Christine Berkeley.
Uh,
The brown-headed one or the blonde-headed one?
The brown.
Yeah, she's a hottie. I like
Yeah.
her too.
Alexandra Daddario,
Right.
which her last name makes me feel like I have a speech impediment, like I'm stuttering. Daddario.
She was not bad. She did a pretty. Actually, I will say, it subverted my expectations in the women not being. I thought they would play up the sex, and they do. I mean, they make them very sexual, but not nearly as far as I thought they would. They actually served a strong purpose in the film, and it was fun. And the whole the fat guy trying to get with the blonde headed chick, I loved it. It was fun. That's just the problem with the movie was the tone just shifted so much that I think if they just stuck with one tone, it would have been more enjoyable. Like if you're gonna do a comedy, make it a comedy. But I can't call it a comedy.
Yeah. They were trying to make it into a comedy, though.
Yeah.
It had
sounded
all
like-
the comedy elements. It was like a Seth Rogen kind of film setup, except it was just them trying to attempt all these gags with the back plot of there being a drug dealer that's on the shore and they have to save them. I mean, they show up and he's like, The Rock at one point he doesn't know what to do. He gets fired from the lifeguard people and he doesn't know what to do. So he's like, I got to go talk to my mentor. And his mentor is David Hasselhoff. And they make like this whole kind of bitty joke about him going to see him, and Hasselhoff's giving him advice and whatnot. And it was just like, none of this is funny.
Right. You're absolutely right. None of it was, and the times they tried to be really funny were god awful. Like they had the whole scene where the fatter guy is big into technology. I'm like, oh, they're gonna do this, and sure enough, they did it. And they took Zac Efron's character, who was just a dick. You didn't really think of him as being stupid, but they try to make that trope of the smart, handsome, super athletic guy just being an idiot when the fat guy's trying to hack into something, do something with a computer, and the fat guy's like, we're trying to get dirt on him, and then Zac Efron's like, dirt's not going to help us, we need to get computer stuff. And it's like,
Oh,
good
man.
God, that part was
it's a good joke.
off. Yeah, the classic joke. It was done like it was late at night. There's maybe like 2 people on set. They're like, let's just shoot something that looks kind of funny, and they actually put it in the film. It was awful. But I would say the Some of the scenes, like with them going underwater and saving people, was kind of fun. That was nice to see. You don't see a whole lot of that anymore. But I will say, what pissed me off was using green screens when they're on the boat. I mean, good God.
When the boat was on fire, it looked so horrible.
Oh, it was terrible. But like all the scenes where they were on their boat, like scouting out stuff, this is a fucking Baywatch movie. Don't green screen boat scenes. Come on. Spend the extra $200 and just go, rent a boat and film it on the water. I mean, what in the world?
I guarantee that the show that was filmed 2 decades ago didn't have one single green screen scene. It was all practical effects of like boats chasing each other, blowing up and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Practical effects. They had a boat that's probably broken. They blew it up. That's great. But I know why they did it. They're cheap assholes who probably filmed it over 3 weeks.
Well, you also got The Rock there, who's the most highly paid actor in America right now. Right. You're not going to put him on a flaming boat, and you're not going to attempt to sully his good face with a stunt double. So you're like, hey, Rock, you don't mind jumping off this boat just in a green screen, right? He's like, yeah, I'll do that.
As long as the check clears.
Wait, were you on set for this movie?
I was there. I was actually the stunt coordinator.
Okay.
You were the stunt double for The Rock?
No, just the coordinator. I coordinated
just the coordinator.
all the stunts.
Okay. How was it like working with The Rock?
He's a nice guy, very nice. He did one day though steal my lunch, and I wasn't too happy about that. So I got in a fist fight with him.
Really?
Oh wow!
How did that go?
Yeah, how did it go?
Well, he first he threw me against the ropes, and then I ran the ring twice, and then he picked me up, he rock bottomed me, and then he stood over me and kicked my arm into my side so he wouldn't trip over it. He took off his armband, looked around at the onlookers for a good, 10-15 seconds, threw his armband into the onlookers, ran the ropes once, hopped over my body, ran them twice, and then stopped over my body and flung his arms back and forth like he was doing no way, or like an out kind of symbol, and he dropped what he referred to as the people's elbow on my head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that, 'cause one of the deleted scenes, I got really confused because they had the camera on him, and
you watching the Blu-ray?
Yeah, I was watching the Blu-ray, and he said, "Hey, Gweedo, check this out," and he bent over and showed us his asshole.
I remember that day on set.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a whole thing that we had going back and forth. He likes to joke around on set, so occasionally we'll just try and catch each other so that they turn and look, and you're looking at one of our assholes.
Wow.
So we just do it back and forth. Occasionally he'd be at craft services getting a mac and cheese or something, and I'd put my butt into I'd go under the table, cut a hole in the table, put my butt in the mac and cheese, so that when he took a scoop of mac and cheese, there's my butthole just staring right back at him, and I'd be like, "Gotcha, Rock."
Nice, got him.
Man, why didn't they have that in the film?
I don't know. One day I spent 16 hours under that craft service table.
Oh, you did this more than once.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, all of my bits involved the craft services table. So,
well, very, very interesting. Well, Millpool, have you watched anything lately?
The only thing I've seen lately is I watched Face Off last week.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. You guys seen this? Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I believe we had a movie night quite a while ago, a few months ago, where we all watched it.
Yeah. It's a very loose premise for that movie.
I think the premise is pretty tight.
I mean, I guess, but how they get there is like you kind of have to turn your brain off a lot.
Right. Lots of suspending disbelief.
Yeah, but it's a fun movie. They crash a boat through another boat, which is cool. Yeah, they crash an airplane through an airplane hangar.
Wow.
And then also every time anyone shoots a gun, if the bullet hits anything, it makes an explosion of sparks, no matter the material. So it's very fun.
What's the premise? It's one of those movies I always hear about, but I have no idea what it's about.
Oh, dude, have you not seen Face Off? Wow,
I have not.
It's a lot of fun. So the premise is, John Travolta is the good guy. He's a cop, and Nicolas Cage is the bad guy. He's a terrorist, and Nicolas Cage is at the start of the movie is trying to kill John Travolta. And he shoots him with a sniper rifle, and it kills John Travolta's son instead. So John Travolta dedicates his life basically to hunting down Nicolas Cage. Castor Troy is his name in the movie, and capturing him to the detriment of his family life and everything else around him. But basically, he eventually catches Castor Troy, who is in a coma as a result of him getting captured for some reason. But they also learn that there's a bomb in the city that Castor Troy has set up for some reason. And they don't know where it is, but they need to find it. And pretty quickly come to the conclusion that John Travolta should switch faces with Castor Troy and become him to figure out where the bomb is.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's neat.
It's interesting. I mean, it's a vehicle for just a fun action movie, and getting to see John Travolta playing the good guy and then playing the bad guy, and eventually Castor Troy wakes up from his coma and becomes John Travolta through similar means.
Whoa.
So they swap roles. It's very interesting to see them do that as actors.
And there's one point in the movie at the beginning before his son dies. The way that this family greets each other is by like gently molesting their faces.
Well, wait, what?
Yeah.
So he reaches out. Imagine me, hey Biggie, it's just okay, Con. Good to see you. And I reach out and I put my right hand on your forehead and then slowly drag my hand down your face.
Oh, so that's not a normal thing that you normally do?
No, not in my life. I haven't really seen that.
Yeah.
Oh.
For John Travolta in this movie, it's very normal, and it becomes integral at the end when they can't figure out who is who, and his family doesn't know who's my real dad, who's the real good guy, and that's how you know, because he does the face thing.
Wow, I may have to just start doing that in real life, because if that's the case, then are the people you're talking to really who they are?
It's pretty weird. And then at the end of the movie, John Travolta becomes himself again, and he adopts Castor Troy's, who is now deceased. He adopts his son. Well, not so much adopts, he just kind of brings him home with him. And his son looks exactly like his dead son, which is pretty creepy.
Oh my god.
And then the first thing that the family does when they greet him is the gentle molestation caress on his face. The kid hasn't even entered the house yet. He's standing on the porch, and the daughter runs up and, molests his face.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
Oh my god.
It's weird.
So, the family's like not blind or anything, right? That's just what they do.
That's just what they do.
It's like that family. You ever have that you were growing up as a kid and you went to a friend's house to play, and then they're like, okay, it's dessert time or it's treat time, and then the parents would serve popsicles in a bowl.
Whoa. What?
What? No.
What the hell?
That happened to me. And then you're, because I was just like, well, this is strange, but it's not my family. I like, this is how I would eat a popsicle.
What? So, do you still use like a spoon while it's still in the stick?
No, you just hold the bowl in one hand and then eat the popsicle like normal. I guess it's to prevent dripping from going on the carpet.
Okay, I thought they just had.
I thought they
But
were
when it
serving
was-
them all in one bowl. So
When
you
it
have
was
your own
served-
individual bowl.
Like what?
When it was served to me, it was given to, there was a single popsicle in like a soup bowl.
Okay. Interesting.
I remember that. I was like 6 or 7 years old. I remember that day until I die.
Very neat.
Wait, how is this like Face Off?
Because it's like the face rubbing thing is kind of like that. Like
Okay.
a family does something different,
So
and
if
you
you
show up.
If you swapped identities with this 6-year-old friend of yours,
Yeah.
and he served, and you both had to serve popsicles to someone, and he served it in a bowl, then we would know.
Right, the
who is
family.
who.
Yeah, everybody would know who is who. Yeah, that's good.
Wow, that is good stuff. Well, Guido, have you watched anything recently?
The last movie I watched was just kind of a throwaway movie to put on and do nothing to, and I hadn't seen it in a while. It was 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's a good movie from what I remember.
it's decent.
Yeah. I watched it when it came out, which was probably early 2000s, 2002 or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It I guess it holds up. I don't know. I wasn't like laughing like I was when I was a teenager watching it or whatnot, but a lot of like things were dated. Like there's one point where God, I forgot her name. The lady in it, the store manager.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could remember her name. But anyways, she says, "Hey, what would you think about becoming her? Have you ever heard of the term fuck buddy before?" And it was like one of those, you could tell that it was one of those jokes where at the time people were like, "Oh, fuck buddy, what's that?" Or, "Ooh, this is risque."
Yeah.
But
Sure.
nowadays it just does not translate well because everybody's heard of the term fuck buddy.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a lot of that. So
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. Humor has evolved or devolved for all we know. But it led me to think like there hasn't been very many good comedies to come out in the past decade.
Oh,
Really?
that can't be true.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I mean, there has to be
name one.
there has to be at least one Baywatch. I've heard very good
you
things
got me.
about it.
Oh man.
One of the best comedies.
Only the behind the scenes stuff though on the Blu-ray.
Right. Yeah. Blu-ray behind the scenes there's a lot of content there. I don't know how they all fit it on a single Blu-ray, really. But yeah, it's just I remember in the early 2000s, even a few years ago, it was comedies after comedy after comedy. There were a lot of comedies coming out. And nowadays, I don't know. Like I'm having trouble even thinking of a few right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially those, especially when Judd Apatow was like
Yeah.
really cranking out films. I guess 4-Year-Old Virgin is also a Judd Apatow film.
Right. That
you know,
one
it seemed
was like the first of them all.
yeah,
I guess.
definitely. I think you're right.
That it launched Steve Carell's career to a certain extent. And
Yeah.
the store manager,
Sure.
that lady started getting work. in
Jane
other stuff.
Lynch.
Yep.
Pulled her
What else
name.
was she in? I remember seeing her
Um,
in stuff like after that movie.
She was in the television series Glee, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yes.
I can't name many other things, but she's always played kind of the same character,
Yeah, I
which
think
is
that was
like a
really
tall, assertive lesbian.
right, right. I think that was kind of her last big role was doing Glee. I don't think she was in much after that. She was always kind of a not even a support character, just like a someone they would just run into, like the friend of the friend, like in a comedy or something like that. Not a memorable role, but you just recognize her. And I don't think she's ever really been a lead in anything.
But nowadays we get like fucking Amy Schumer movies and shit,
which we love.
I guess. There's always been those kind of movies, though.
Yeah,
right.
But I can't think of a good. I mean, I haven't seen Super Troopers. I like the first one, but I can't imagine it being that funny.
Oh yeah, I did not read
the new Super
good
Troopers
things about it.
So I don't know. Do you think it's like a lack of comedic actors?
Yeah, it could be. I don't know.
Yeah,
because like I don't know. SNL has kind of gone downhill too, and there used to be a lot of people coming out of SNL that would do movies.
The funniest movies I've seen lately are superhero movies.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right, like Deadpool 2 is out now. I just did a Google search for comedies, and Bridesmaids came up, 2011.
That was a decent one.
It's only 7 years ago. It's not 10.
Quite a while ago.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the correlation you make with SNL is actually kind of fascinating because it seemed like for a while, especially during the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, you were getting a lot of talent out of SNL. And now you're not getting much, and that does kind of set like a bit of a yardstick on comedy as a whole. And I don't know. I think for me, it's kind of taste. I don't know. I feel like my taste for film has kind of gone away from an actual comedy. I just don't get as much enjoyment out of them as I used to. Or
it's because there's not good ones anymore.
Oh, that too. Absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're right. Jeez, like I can't think of anything, and I'm looking at the internet, and I'm not seeing anything that great.
Right. And I just did a search for comedies released in 2017. Some of these aren't comedies. I guess they are. Big Sick was a really good movie, but I wouldn't classify it as a comedy. There's some very funny moments, but it's more like a romantic drama.
Yeah.
And then like a bunch of superhero movies. Jumanji. I don't know. It's just not a lot there. A lot of animated films too. But who knows? Maybe some comedy troupe. I think that's what'll have to happen is some group of comedians would have to create their first movie and have it be a giant success, and then they make several offshoots of that, like Apatow did.
Yeah. It'll happen eventually. Right. Eventually there's going to be another good comedy movie, I hope.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. That's all I have to say about that. What about Forrest Gump? Would you classify that as a comedy?
No.
Yeah.
It's a drama.
Yeah, it's a drama.
I would consider it. And dramas can have humorous elements. It doesn't have to be all dour and depressing. But I would definitely not call it a funny movie. It's a drama with some lighthearted portions. We have a couple of emails that we can go through. Hey, and if you want to shoot us an email, if you have any if you want to mention anything about our topics, either today or previous topics, shoot us an email at justokmovies@gmail.com. So, our first email we have is from Mandolin Waters, which is actually my youngest sister. Hey, Just Okay Movies. So, I want to know, what is the one movie that has given you guys a major moment, where everything in the movie comes together and just makes sense? Also, what is one movie that has made you think or even question your life? Hope you guys keep making podcasts and keep giving Biggie Sides grief about his awful movie taste. Thanks.
Family's against it.
Oh yeah. I'm still getting lots of messages of people disagreeing with my taste in film, but that's okay. Hey, that is quite okay. So we'll start with you, Guido. What's I guess what's the film that kind of gave you that awe moment, or even also changed your life, or made you think about things differently?
Oh boy, the aha moment movie, and I can't really say what happens because I know Biggie hasn't seen this movie, but it's The Usual Suspects.
Well, I've never seen that.
Okay.
Oh, you haven't? Well,
No.
there's a moment in the movie where you're like, ah, and
Yeah.
it's one of those moments that you won't. I hope it didn't get spoiled for you ever in the past 20 years that it's been out, because it's one of those movie moments that you'll never forget.
It's definitely been spoiled to me. I just forget what it is. What's the guy's name in that movie?
I can't say. I don't want to say anything. To,
If you say
to
his name,
Biggie
then I'll
size.
remember what the spoiler is.
I know.
It's probably been referenced before, and I still just had no idea what it was. I know it's supposed to be a very iconic scene in film.
Should I watch that movie? Is it worth watching?
It's a very good movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you mind
Even if
watching
I
Kevin
know the
Spacey?
thing? No.
No. Yeah, it's good. It's funny. It's kind of like a heisty movie. A bunch of criminals get together to pull off a job. But yeah, it's good. I like it.
What about you, Millpool? Oh,
Hey,
did
wait,
you
I
have a
didn't
second
finish.
film? Oh, I forgot this was a two-part question. Go ahead, Guido.
As to something that changed my life, I don't think movies have ever had that big of an effect on me. To where I take a different outlook on life. The only thing I can really think of off of the top of my head were I was watching the movie and I was jealous of the people in it because I wanted something like that, to create something like that. And it's gonna sound silly, but it's Wet Hot American Summer, where
Huh.
you get all these comedians together to make this silly movie about a summer camp, and it just, the whole time that I was watching it, everybody seemed to be having fun and wanted to be there and acting, and it was one of those times where I was like, man, I really wish I could have something like this, where I could go and do this.
Like a group of friends?
No, not the content of the movie,
hang
the
out
actual
in a-
making of the movie.
Summer camp together?
No, not the content of the movie. I mean, just like coming together
Yeah.
as
Those
a
guys.
creative collective to create something that's funny and enjoyable to other people.
Yeah, those guys are all pretty good friends, right? I haven't seen the movie, but it's like the guys from the state and some other people.
Yeah, a lot of Upright Citizens people,
Yeah.
a lot of people, big name people who got their start there, like Bradley Cooper. Paul Rudd is in it. Michael Ian Black.
Mhm.
Just a lot of good comedian actors too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the first thing that came to my head. Wet Hot American Summer. You should watch it.
Very
Oh,
nice.
some
That's a
movies
good
for me to
comedy.
watch.
That's a real good comedy.
I think I started watching it at some point and got kind of bored.
You
Turn
son
it
of a
off.
bitch.
I'm sorry.
What about you, Millpool? I guess we'll do it in two
Uh,
parts. What's your
My
film?
awe moment. Geez, I'm bad at this kind of stuff. The only thing that came to mind was watching Get Out, that movie, Get Out. But I think the whole point of that movie is to have that moment where you're like, oh, I see what's going on here.
Nice.
Have you guys seen that movie?
I have not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You haven't seen Get Out either? You guys
haven't.
need to just start watching movies. What were you guys doing in high school?
Playing video games.
Yeah,
Oh.
lots of Halo. That's about it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, what film changed your life?
Oh, I don't know I don't know. Nothing comes to mind. Yeah, there's movies that have made me feel really good, I guess, immediately after, but that feeling usually goes away eventually. Like the
Aw.
Matrix. I think we talked about, or I brought up the Matrix in a previous podcast. The just like you felt like a badass when you left the theater, and you're like, "Fuck yeah, I want to shoot guns and do cool fighting moves and stuff like that."
Sure. And I would say for my thing that kind of changed my life, or at least changed my perspective, even for a moment, was The Matrix. I remember my dad and I rented it from the movie store and went and watched it, and we kind of just sat. We normally just made fun of films quite a bit. We watch a lot of shitty films and stuff, but I think this is the only time I remember we sat in silence through the entire film, because mainly we couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. And at the end, we kind of went downstairs to get something to drink, and we were just like, what in the hell was that? And so we went back up and watched it another 3 times. And because it was just so fascinating, just that whole perspective, because like, why in the world is that thing going down his throat? How did he get there? What's going on? And it did kind of make you wonder, like, what if that was real? And of course, that philosophy goes all the way back to Plato. You know, the Plato's cave theory or
Yep.
type of thought. And it's fascinating because, I mean, what if it's true? We can't really prove it. So I'd say that was definitely my one that made me kind of think a little differently. Like, what if this life isn't really real? And what is real?
Right. Yeah.
What if we're in a simulation, man?
What if we are?
And
Nothing
what if we
matters.
are? Absolutely. Nothing matters.
Or
My
everything
awe
matters.
moment. My awe moment was Sixth Sense. And that one's kind of a basic bitch answer, but it's really kind of true. I was just sitting
Everybody
around.
felt it.
Yeah, it was powerful, that moment, because I wasn't really paying attention to the film all that much. I'm like, oh, it's Bruce Willis going around talking to some kid. Oh, this is weird. And then that moment happens when that string of scenes show up, and you're like, oh my God. And
Yeah.
it just floors you. And that was definitely my big awe moment. And but good question, Mandy.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you
question.
so much.
Good question. Fight Club also is another one of those
Ooh,
for me.
That's a good one.
Life changing or
Aha
aha
moment.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, our next email is from a Dylan Franco. Hey, gang. Just discovered the podcast the other day when I heard Biggie Sides on the Just Okay Gamers podcast. Hey, thanks, man. I've been really enjoying the podcast, even though Biggie Sides' taste in film is questionable at best.
Oh, man. All these
Ow.
emails I feel are just Gweedo in under different shooting rooms.
He's like, I'm gonna get that son of a bitch. And definitely want to hear some more. That being said, I wonder if any of you have seen Thank You for Smoking. It is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I found it to be a great satirical look at our political system, lobbying, and choice through the lens of the cigarette debate. Thanks, and keep up the movie watching. That is an excellent movie. I actually read this to my wife because that is her favorite movie. And it's actually the movie we saw on our first date. I brought some food over to her apartment, and we sat and watched Thank You for Smoking. That was the first time I'd ever seen it. And so that film has some very fond memories for me. And I agree. It is one of the best satirical films available. I really believe. The gentleman who plays the main character, I always think of The Dark Knight, him playing Two-Face. I can't remember his real name.
Aaron
he does.
Eckhart.
Thank you. I mean, not only is he a good-looking guy, but he can play that role where it's very satirical, very funny, in its material. And he does such a good job in that role. And it's also an interesting subject matter because big tobacco is a fascinating aspect of the American economy and has been a huge driving force to, I would say, a positive and a detriment. And I'm sure that's also up for debate. But it is a fascinating film. Have any of you guys watched it?
I've seen it. Yeah. I saw it a while when it first came out. And I remember enjoying it, and I can remember bits and pieces about it, but I couldn't tell you the main the main plot points to it. I remember one scene specifically where he gets thrown in the back of a van or something, and some people put nicotine patches all over his body.
Oh God, I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah.
And then he goes to the hospital and they say, hey, if you have any more nicotine, you're going to die. So it like forces him to quit smoking.
Right.
Is what I remember. And I remember when I've struggled with smoking for
Did you
like
try doing that?
10 years. Well, no, but it always crossed my mind like, man, maybe I should just OD on some nicotine.
No, the film does a great job. I love the very beginning with Aaron Eckhart having a debate with someone who's anti-smoking or anti-tobacco, and the focus he takes. I can't remember quite how it goes, but it is quite it's a fascinating look, especially as the fight against smoking in general keeps increasing. It seems like every year, more and more rules go against people who are smoking. And it's great to be able to look at your protagonist as a person, at least during the beginning of the film, that is pro-smoking and that philosophy. And it kind of puts you in an interesting frame of thought.
Yeah, I remember the movie having a lot of good dialogue. Another scene that sticks out is where he's at dinner with like the alcohol lobbyist and then like the firearms lobbyist.
Oh. Yeah.
And it's just a string of conversation between the three of them, and I remember being impressed by that. But it's been so long since I've seen it, and I can't comment much more upon that film.
I forgot about that scene. That is good because like each of them are like the stereotype that you would imagine for someone who was pro-gun or pro-alcohol, and it is a good scene.
There's a lot of actors in this movie. I'm just looking down the list. There's a lot of like names I recognize.
Yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of really well-known actors in it. I can't remember who directed it though.
What movie do you think has the largest cast?
Just like of famous people, or just the largest cast in general?
The largest cast in general, total people. It's got to be one of those early movies like Ben-Hur or Moses or something.
Right.
Yeah, where there's like no regulations on how they treated extras, and they could just do whatever they wanted and not pay them very much, probably.
That'll be very interesting. Gweedo, for next episode, look that up for us and give us that answer. I'm giving you some homework on the pod.
Okay, my homework's done.
Okay. All right, great. What you got?
The movie Gandhi. There's several scenes in it where they have 300,000 real people, specifically the funeral scene for his when Gandhi dies.
Wow.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, A+. Good job.
Thanks.
Good job at homework.
Well,
I like to get my homework done early so I can have my weekend free.
You do. Good job, man. Very proud of you. Thank you so much, Dylan. And I'm proud of you. Thank you for shooting us an email, and thank you for listening. Well, I think that just about wraps things up. And thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. We now have 25 followers, so won't
shit.
be mad.
Nice work, everybody. All right, let's raise stakes. Let's bring it up. You see, you got to keep setting goals like this, Biggie.
I see. Let me write that down.
You're at 25. What would be a realistic goal within the next 1 or 2 weeks? 35?
Let's go 35. That's a good number. I have a good feeling about that number. So let's
35
get 35
Twitter followers.
35 Twitter followers. That sounds good. Also, if you're interested, you can actually go over to IMDb and see a list of all the films we have reviewed in order, how we ranked them. You could go to justokmovies.com and click on the link to go check that out. We actually had one person comment. It was Miss Belarus, who asked us, why is Battlefield Earth so low on the list?
Because it's a horrible movie.
After I read that, I'm like, you're right. That movie really deserves better. I actually went ahead and ordered a Blu-ray copy of Battlefield Earth from Germany because that's the only place I could find them.
For good reason. It's a bad movie.
No, it is a bad movie technically, but you can learn so much from the movie, and you have to prize education, and that's what that film offers: is education on how a bad movie looks.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, Biggie size. You
Yes.
can spin it. You can spin it any way you want.
Yeah, it's kind of lost me there.
Well, very good. Well, thank you so much for listening, and you all have a good evening. All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.